Hello, everybody. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Thank you for joining me at Conscious Together. And my name's Lorien Holiday, and this is the Conscious Together channel, fairly newly launched. And part of our mission is that we hope to connect more people with the powerful skill of mindfulness and help develop this truly practical tool that is within all of us to help make it easier to navigate the challenges in our own lives and be able to better support those we love when they face their own life challenges. We hope that you will join us to explore mindful principles and philosophies and practice meditations to help grow this skill. And like all skills, it's important that we remember that mindfulness becomes more effective the more we practice. No different to a sport. If you were learning to play football or snooker or tennis or any other sport, you've got to practice to get good at it. And the more you practice, the more easier, the more reflexive it becomes, the more skilled, the more proficient we become. And mindfulness is exactly the same. So the invitation is to practice little and often, to practice regularly as best we can. Just a footnote with regards to the meditation practices today and in the future. They're going to be fairly gentle, hopefully fairly comfortable, maybe even pleasant if we're lucky. But mindfulness can be challenging for some of us. And so, if through any of the practices you feel particularly uncomfortable, you feel unsettled, just feel free to end the practice. Don't persist with the practice. Don't push through pain and discomfort. Just reorientate yourself to the room, and we would suggest that you connect directly with a mindfulness teacher because they can hopefully help you navigate some of these challenges. Now, the reason that some people find mindfulness challenging and it's not necessarily immediately right for everybody is that there may be some unresolved trauma in our past. And the act of sitting, particularly with the body and with our thoughts, can actually be very challenging, specifically in the case of unresolved trauma. So we just need to be a little bit gentle around that. Now, that doesn't mean that mindfulness isn't suitable for people who have experienced trauma in their lives or who are working through trauma. Mindfulness is actually very effective as part of the support package there, but it needs to be handled with a bit more care and a bit more attention, and often on a one-to-one basis, which isn't necessarily the best vehicle for a YouTube channel such as this. So just be aware of your experience, and if it doesn't feel right, just discontinue the practices and feel free to connect with us directly, and we'll see if we can give you some direct guidance or an indication of where you might wish to go. So, with all that preamble out of the way, welcome once again to the channel. I hope you enjoy today's practices and reflections. And we will just start with a simple practice to start with, just to see where we're at and how we're feeling. So, if you were with us before, the invitation, I'm going to use that word a lot because it is an invitation, is to find a position where you are comfortable, preferably sitting upright in a chair, slightly away from the backrest of the chair itself, with your feet flat on the floor, imagining a dignified posture, if you will. However, that said, again, the priority is to find a position that works for your body, whether that's sitting or whether that's lying down or even whether that's standing up. The meditations that we do don't require a specific position or posture, so just do the best you can. But if you are able to sit in a chair with a slightly upright, dignified posture, with your feet flat on the floor, your hands sitting in your lap, perhaps on the thighs, palms up or palms down as you prefer. And with these practices, you can have your eyes open or eyes closed, again, as you prefer. And there's merit to practicing meditations both ways. So there is no better way of doing one of these meditations, in my view. So just do what feels best for you in this moment to help you work with the contents of what's happening right now. So just gather yourself and sit however you wish to do so for the moment. And just take a few slow breaths to settle yourself ready for the practice. And we're going to start by checking in with the current situation that we find ourselves in. So simply notice what's happening in the mind. Is your mind busy, perhaps agitated, full of distraction, wondering how long you've got before the next thing requires your attention? Perhaps you're excited, interested, curious about this practice and what you might notice. There might be a sense of anticipation that you want to feel relaxed, that you want to feel calmer. Simply note all these thoughts, all these thought experiences, and see if you can let go of the tendency to judge them as either correct or unhelpful. And notice simply that they are thoughts, that we are not our next thought, that we don't control the next thought that comes to our mind. So just see what's true in the mind in this moment for you. And you might see if there's any corresponding emotional quality or tone to the nature of these thoughts. Perhaps there's a feeling of nervousness, anxiety, frustration, tiredness. Or perhaps the mind, the sense of emotions attached, is relatively calm, relatively pleasant, is looking forward to the next period of time. And again, there's no right emotion to have or bring to this practice. We have to recognize what is with us at this moment. And now turning to the experience of the body in this moment, scanning from the top of the head to the tips of the toes, the ends of the fingers, the front and the back, and within. Perhaps part of the body is uncomfortable, is fatigued, is weary, perhaps even painful. Or perhaps the body is relaxed, sitting well, and there isn't much to notice at all. We're just gathering the space of the moment, bringing, as best we can, a kind, curious attitude to what we find in this present moment of ours. So, having done this, come back to the experience of the breath, and perhaps paying attention to the breath at the tip of the nose, just gently focusing on the physical, felt sensations. You might notice a chattering of the mind, the inner voice looking to narrate this experience to you as you're having it. See if it's possible to recognize that and gently let it go, focusing again as best you can on these felt sensations at the tip of the nose. And you might notice cooler air coming into the nose. You might notice warmer air as you breathe out again. You might notice the changing experience of pressure around the nose as the air flows in and out. You might be aware of the tingling sensation that accompanies the actual sense of our bodies, the space that we occupy. See how close you can get to the experience of the breath itself. And rather than reaching for it or stretching into it, see if you can just relax into that space instead. See if you can invoke a sense of letting go of everything else and just being with the space of the sensation of the breath at the tip of the nose. And check in with yourself, simply whether this experience, this attention, the quality that you're bringing to the breath is perhaps pleasant or unpleasant or neither. Just bring that curious question to the experience for a moment and see what you find. And we don't need to change the rhythm of our breath in any way. There's no need to breathe more deeply or more slowly. In fact, we can just be quizzical, curious about the rate, the rhythm of the breath in this moment. You might notice a fly buzzing around your room in front of your camera. Just gently being with the breath as best you can. Allowing any other distractions in the environment around you to be as they are. Notice any resistance to them, any wishing that it was other than you find it. And just gently begin again, back with the breath itself. And so we come to the last minute of this practice and just see what you notice in this final minute of the experience. Seeing if you can stay connected to the breath at the same time. Thank you. So just gently open your eyes if they were closed. Maybe just take a few moments looking around the space that you're in. If you want to, perhaps gently stretching your neck a little, shaking your shoulders out, your hands, your feet, whatever it takes just to bring the body gently back to life and to ground yourself back in the present moment. And have a sip of water if you'd like, perhaps. And take this moment, this opportunity to just cast your mind back on that practice and how it felt for you. This is a mindful inquiry exercise, and it's a process of simply reflecting back on how we found the experience, whether it was easy and comfortable, or whether it was challenging, whether the nature of the mind changed at all through the practice. Perhaps it started busy, became calmer, and perhaps even became busier again towards the end of the practice. Or perhaps entirely the other way around. Perhaps the mind started calm, and during the practice, it became distracted and agitated. Simply see what's true for you. There's no right or wrong with all of this. We are bringing a curious, kind, and where possible, compassionate attitude to the experience that we found. And you might want to reflect on any experience in the body during the practice, whether it felt more relaxed, more tired, more achy. Again, whatever's true for you, whatever you may have noticed. And perhaps there wasn't much to notice at all. Perhaps nothing stands out, and that's okay too. But we're just having this curious review with ourselves. Is there anything that we've learned about the nature of our minds through this short practice experience today? So just take a moment and make yourself comfortable. Shuffle yourself around as much as you like. You're not on you're not on camera, so you can jump around all over the place if you want to. And so before we move on to another practice, I just want to do some reflections and introduction to some work that I'm interested in around mindfulness and our moral framework. And I think mindfulness really helps us to bring some perspective to the importance of having an effective personal moral framework. And I'm always slightly conscious that such philosophizing around these things is possibly an indicator that I don't have enough real work to be getting on with. No tough grind, no ploughing of fields or doing trade jobs to keep my hands focused. And so I have time to deliberate these things. But I think that actually most people, if you're watching this, you're living in a world that is broadly safe and effectively meeting your basic survival needs. Your needs for hunger and for shelter and protection are probably broadly well met. And this is a period in history which, for most of us, is an incredible blessing if we stop to think about it and apply some gratitude to all the incredible luxuries and safeties and conveniences that we have in the world. But it presents us with new and previously unknown sets of challenges that we have to navigate as skillfully as possible. And so, whilst at our heart we're a social species and we've evidently communicated very effectively with each other through history, we've created empires and civilizations, we've built incredible works of art, we've discovered and developed sciences, studied history, philosophy, religion, spirituality. Um, but in spite of this, we've always struggled to communicate effectively to each other in respect to the disparity of our world within our inner world, our thoughts, what we think other people are thinking about us. That's a fascinating one to get your head around. And our thoughts about other people and the world around us. And of course, on the other side, the world that we share in a very real and direct way with the people around us. And this conflict between our inner and outer experience can lead us to a great deal of personal suffering and unwitting or even deliberate increase of the suffering of those around us, perhaps through our action or inaction. We're wired to be socially primed, to be sensitive to the verbal and non-verbal cues of people around us that we depend upon and the people that we don't depend upon. We want to connect, we want to fit in, we fear being rejected from the group, from being ostracized and cast out. And we can find ourselves in a very unhealthy series of mental states if we don't get this right. And another factor to consider here is the absolute revolution in our communication technologies with the digital age. And this has magnified these challenges for us manyfold. And we live in an unprecedented time of being completely connected to each other at all times, at the drop of a hat. And yet we can feel so starkly isolated and so unprepared for this crashing or merging of our emotional landscapes with the world around us. Never before have we been able to come into contact with so many people so directly and to have that sort of mingling of emotion, that mingling of our mental contents, our views, our attitudes, our perspectives. And that can leave us in a very difficult space digitally in the digital and online spaces. So it's through this lens that I want to start exploring an ethical moral framework and how mindfulness can help support this. And for me personally, mindfulness is absolutely about creating that mental space and that mental bandwidth through which we can step back and make more discerning choices and decisions about how we respond to things so that we're less likely to be swept up in the emotion of a situation, of a debate, of what we've seen online or what's happened to us at work or within our family. And we can look at it through a more curious lens, bringing a deeper perspective, a perspective of a shared position as part of humanity, rather than simply locked within our own self-centered, egocentric view of the world that can be so sticky, so easy for us to fall into and get swept along. So practicing mindfulness, certainly for me, and I know for a great many others, is critical to building this space for us, this space to breathe mentally, the space through which we can consider alternative options more rationally, more effectively. And I'm hoping to build on this basis of thoughts over the coming weeks and months through this channel together with my colleagues. And hopefully we'll come to some effective and practical solutions to help us navigate this landscape in which we find ourselves more effectively, more kindly, more compassionately to ourselves and to others, so that we can hopefully do less damage to ourselves and less damage to each other. We'll see what happens. That's a lofty goal. But we'll start with some reflection. So yeah, I hope you'll join us all on this journey as we explore this space together, conscious together. So there's an invitation now to a second practice. And in view of what I've said above, we're going to do an element of metta, which is loving kindness, loving awareness. And the nature of this practice is actually to consciously bring someone to mind and to think well of them. But we're going to invite ourselves to apply this to perhaps a slightly challenging situation or relationship in our lives. And it's best not to start too dramatically on this, someone that you really have a very difficult relationship with. If you're new to this, it's probably best to start gently, some mild irritation, some mild conflict, nothing that's too deeply rooted and too emotional for us to want to risk dealing with at the moment. And we're going to bring that situation to mind, and then we're going to explore whether there are any alternative perspectives that might be able to help us through that. So I say this is a little bit of a variation on the metta, the loving awareness, loving kindness practice that is a little bit more attuned, hopefully, to helping us resolve the conflicts, perhaps within ourselves and perhaps with the relationships that we want to nourish. So again, just sit comfortably or lie if you prefer, adopting a posture that feels right for you. But if possible, sitting a little tall, a little dignified. This practice might be easier to have eyes closed for, just to help the visualization process, if that's comfortable for you. But again, there's no pressure whatsoever. Do what feels intuitive to you, what feels right for you in the moment. So sitting and just starting with a sense of the breath, focusing attention on the tip of the nose, settling our awareness. And once again, just checking in with the state of the mind and the body in this moment. A gentle inventory of how we find ourselves at the beginning of this practice. And now take a moment to bring to mind perhaps a challenging, slightly challenging relationship or situation that's perhaps been in your life recently. And let yourself gently and curiously recall that situation if it feels comfortable to do so. The people that were there, what they looked like, the environment, the location, the physical space. Any sounds, any smells, any tastes that accompany this memory that you can recall. Just gently rebuild it in your mind and replay the situation as best you remember in your head. Paying particular attention to the emotional quality and any felt physical sensations that you either recall from the time or that perhaps there is some sense of experiencing now. And perhaps there isn't much to notice. Perhaps there wasn't very much dramatic there that's recalled or experienced now. Just see what's true for you. And now come back to the breath itself. And as you're breathing, gently wish for you to be happy in this experience, for you to feel safe and well. Inviting curiosity to this experience. And you can say words either out loud if you're in a space to do so, or in your own mind that feel right for you. You don't have to use the exact words that I use. If there are phrases that feel more natural, more comfortable for you, that's okay too. So just gently wish for yourself to be happy in that situation and in this moment now, to be safe and well, to be filled with curiosity. And notice any felt sensations in the body, the nature of the mind, whilst gently intoning these phrases. Just see if there's anything to notice. If there's a simple sense of pleasantness, perhaps, or perhaps challenge, or perhaps neither. A simple audit of how it feels. And now, as best you can, see if you can apply these same statements to the other party or parties in this engagement. See if it's possible to wish for them to be happy, for them to have a sense of feeling safe and well. And for them to have a curious interest in the event in question. So see if you can invite these phrases for yourself and for the others or other in the scenario. May you be happy. May you feel safe and well. May you have a curious attitude and attention to this event. And in this space, just see if there's any obvious alternative adjustments that could have been made and change the outcome of this situation for the benefits of all parties. This isn't about getting one up over our fellow man or woman. This is about moving forward in partnerships. See if there is a solution that allows both parties to elevate themselves and each other in a genuine, wholehearted way. And if you found a solution, just see if you can gently breathe in this space. Let the body settle in this space. Let the mind settle in this space. And maybe just rest here for another minute or so if it feels okay to. Just exploring the sensations, the physical felt sensations of this place. Repeating the scenario if you choose to, if that feels of benefit. Thank you. So just take a moment and open your eyes if they were closed and just gently stretch if you need to, move the body a little bit. Just make sure you feel okay. Have a sip of water if you like. And again, just take a moment for some mindful reflection, mindful inquiry as to how that experience was for you and whether, again, it felt pleasant or easy or curious, or whether it was frustrating, challenging, didn't resonate at all, perhaps. And either of these outcomes are okay. There's no right or wrong. There's nothing that we're looking to judge here experientially. We're just noticing the quality of the mind, noticing any felt experience in the body, anything that we learned about the nature of our mental experience that might be helpful to us moving forwards. Thank you. So, if you've got any questions, don't forget, and I forgot to put them in the link, but the Conscious Together website link, which I'll add after this stream is over. But if you have any questions, please send us to them there. You can ask them always in the live chat as well, but I know that not everyone's always super comfortable doing that, and that's perfectly okay. So I had a question come through from someone's name who I'm probably terribly mispronouncing. I'm terrible at these sorts of things, and I really need to work out what the best solution is for learning how to pronounce people's names properly. But it might be Lewis or it might be Louise, depending on where they are from in the world, and I don't know. So apologies, and thank you very much, Lewis or Louise, for the question that you submitted. And it was around the fact that there are many different methods of meditation practice, certainly in mindfulness, that there are focuses on the breath or the body, the hands, the feet, mindful walking practices, mindfulness of sound, all these options for meditation. And they were asking which was the best, the most effective form of practice and why. And so, again, thank you for the question. It's a really interesting question, and it's one that so many of us are quick to ask. We're always looking for the most efficient solutions in our lives, and if there's a shortcut that we can find or a secret, we are super zoned into that to try and help us along our journey, and that's completely natural. From my perspective, the purpose of multiple um, objects of meditation, if you like, right? So if you think of an object of meditation as being the breath, as being the body, it could be something external as well, right? You could meditate on a physical object, and that could be anything. It could be a flower, a statue, the sky. It doesn't matter. Sounds, smells, the thoughts themselves. Anything can be an object for meditation. The reason that we teach and that we practice a variety of meditation styles is that they can teach us different things about the experience that we have with the world, right? So we need to perhaps be curious and examine our relationship to sounds and how that affects the mind and our thoughts. For example, if you heard a dog barking randomly during a meditation, what happened in the mind at that point? But also sometimes some meditations just don't feel right for us. We struggle with them more than others. Some people really like meditating on sound. Some people are very comfortable meditating with the breath. Some people, particularly if you have breathing difficulties or perhaps are particularly nervous and have an uncomfortable experience with the breath, then meditating on the breath can be very challenging, very difficult. So we offer alternatives so that you can find something that feels intuitive to you, to give you a really the simplest and the most comfortable, in quotes, place to start your mindfulness meditation journey. And it also helps you apply it in real time to other aspects of your life. So mindful movement, for example, mindful walking helps us bring the object of meditation more into the world around us, so that we aren't limited by thinking I have to meditate in a specific space at a specific time in a specific way. That actually we can bring the skill, the attitude of mindfulness, this being present in the moment, anywhere that we find ourselves, whether that's stuck in traffic, whether it's in the supermarket queue, whether it's at work, whether it's having a challenging discussion with someone in our family. Wherever it is, we have more opportunity to bring that skill the more diversely we apply the skill of meditation to different things. So to sound, to the visual field, to our thoughts, to the body sensations, and probably a number of other things that could be very helpful as well. So I hope that helps. I hope that, so it doesn't, I mean, skillfully dodges the question. There is no best way to meditate, in my experience. And no doubt there are some mindful masters that will bring a different perspective to that, and there will be probably things that work better for you as an individual, and it's probably best to sit with those to start with, to develop the skill comfortably. But the invitation would always be to revisit types of meditation that you find challenging, because there again may be something that you could learn there, something that there is to be discovered about the challenge and the difficulty of meditating on something that doesn't feel intuitive to you. So I hope that helps. If there are any other questions or whatever, please email us in and we will help you out as best we can. So thank you all very much for joining me. I hope you enjoyed it. If you've got any questions, if you've got any comments, please like, share, subscribe, tick your notification bell, and we will be back this Wednesday evening at 5 p.m. UK time as a team again. So it'll be Oliver, Avanti, and myself for another combination of mindfulnesses and thoughts on the same. So I wish you all the very best. Thank you for watching, and I will see you soon. Take care.